I'm Allison. Thanks for joining me for Where I'm From 89 with Paul. Um, it is here in the States about to be a 3-day weekend, so I hope that if you're here, you have plans to nap. No. Maybe I have plans to do other things. I have plans to nap. What have you been reading? I read A Lie Someone Told You About Yourself by Peter Ho Davies, which I really enjoyed. I like shorter books, as probably anyone who knows me knows. And parenting and marriage and abortion, which is not what it says on the front sleeve, but it is definitely about abortion. And it was an interesting book about it from a male perspective. Hi, Paul.
Hello, how are
How
you?
are you? I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I have a slight moment of panic, of course, but and then I've installed Instagram especially for this. So then I had to go through all the notifications and would you like to give permission for this and this and this and this? I'm like, yes, I do.
It's like before you get on a Zoom call, or you like leave it
Yeah,
to the last minute for a Zoom call, and then it needs to update. And you're like,
yeah,
no, but I have 25 seconds before I need to be on this call. So no time for
yeah.
updates. So you made it, and you know what? If
I
we'd
did.
started late, it would have been okay. Like it's okay. So
Yes,
I should have told you
life.
that before, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I have had to start over in the past. It's fine.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Instagram is just, you have to embrace all of its glitches, bugs, whatever
Yeah,
word you want to use.
I think that's just true of doing anything with
Life.
technology these days. Yeah, and life. Yeah, just accept that life has bugs and it's all going to go wrong.
Hmm.
Just embrace it.
Yeah, and try to surround yourself with people who don't get upset about it or
Yeah,
upset at you
exactly.
about it. You know,
Yeah,
like shit happens.
yeah. We're all on this weird train of things going wrong together.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, thank you for joining me and for
Oh,
writing a poem. I know this isn't what you do all the time
no,
when you're
no.
free
Thank you
time.
very much for inviting me on. It kind of yeah, it was a good thing to do. It was nice. I enjoyed it, so I appreciate you kind of giving me
Okay.
the little poke to do it. I appreciate it.
Oh, good. I like hearing that. So, do you want to chat a bit, or do you want to read your poem? Get it done.
Yeah, let's get it done. Otherwise,
Okay.
it's going to be sitting here staring
Okay.
at me, and I'm going
Okay.
to.
Sounds good.
I am from computers, from dial-up tones and thermal paste. I am from the library, solid, welcoming, quiet contemplation. I am from concrete, built to last and ready to play. I am from visits to grandparents and sitting quietly, from uncles and aunties. I'm from holding things in and letting things go, from off you go and you'll do well. I'm from going to church and wondering why, not too sure about the man in the sky. From London and Ireland, the home from home, hot dogs with macaroni and corned beef hash. From the man who could fly to the stories lost in time, the memories that are lost, with mere scraps left to find. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yay! You did it. Um, Lovely. The phone rang and my phone was on silent during your poem. So if you watch this back and you see my eyes go, it's not about your poem. It's about my technological like, oh no. Uh, so what was the experience like for you reading it? I thought it was so British, of course, as an American. I was like, oh, look at that. Like, I want more and more people from like, non-American because even though it feels like obviously it's not here, there's still so much we all have in common. Anyway, I love that
Yeah.
about this prompt. So what was it like for you writing it?
It was it was weird because my anyone who knows me will know that my memory is absolutely rubbish. So like just trying to think back to my childhood was kind of a strange experience because there's so many gaps. But then through that, there's also it brings out some of the more poignant memories and the little things about life. So it's been really interesting looking back in that sort of in that way to kind of pick out those things that those are the things that kind of formed me and to kind of put them down into words. It's been really interesting. Um, and yeah, reading it back is lots of little memories that have kind of been prompted by it, just from little things.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's been really lovely to do.
And why do you think your memory's rubbish? Just because you just are, or do you think you just moved on, or did yucky things happen you don't want to remember, or you just kind of aren't?
No, it's my memory's always been that way. It's for some reason. It's just I've just always had a really rubbish memory. My even my parents when I was growing up, they would sort of
Really?
say to me, "Oh, do you remember going on this holiday?"
Mm,
And I'd be like, Sort of, not really." I vaguely remember going to a place that you're describing, but
mhm,
no, my memory's always been
mhm.
absolutely rubbish. Short-term memory's not too bad, but long-term, as soon as it gets a little bit down the line, I can't remember anything.
So you're living in the moment, is what you're telling
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Very
basically,
much.
it is nice in a way because you can kind of put things behind you, but it is nice sometimes to remember all the things, all the places that you've come from as well, the things that have formed you. But yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword because yeah, sometimes it is nice to. I don't want to remember that.
Mhm. Well, it was interesting because I asked you for a picture, and it's not like you're sitting around looking at those because you didn't even have them with you. So to prompt
No,
your memory.
yeah, my dad is going through a project where he's digitalizing every single picture, and he took a lot of pictures. He
Mm-hmm.
was a real photo taker, so he has all of them. Um, and that's been a slow project that he's been doing. That he's I don't even care to imagine how many pictures he's done.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you just have to. I just said to him, like, can you just send me a picture of me when I was younger? It doesn't matter too much. And within however long, he's had sent me about 50 pictures. I'm like, okay, thanks. Just in a folder with my name on, saying one of these might do you. Okay.
Well, it's a very cute picture, and you had your stuffed animals with you, and you were a stuffed
Yes.
animal person.
Yeah, a little bit. It's one of those weird things that you kind of you hold on to. Um, the one in the picture, I'm not sure if the way you cropped
I
it, I'm not
yeah,
sure if people
I
will see the
couldn't. You
particular
can't.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there is one in the picture that I have still got.
Oh, you still have it.
That's been with me since I was 1 year old, I think. Um,
Wow.
so that's still with me. I have a few that have meant something to me over the years, that I've kept with me. And yeah, I don't know, they're just one of those. It's just a cute face. You can't avoid a cute face, can you?
No, I love them. And for me, having children was an excuse to buy them. And I don't think they ever cared about them as much as maybe I did. And now we have them and
No.
they're older. And it's one of those things I wonder about because it's a hard thing to like get rid of.
Yeah.
For me, they're so I'm pretty good at getting rid of things, but um I don't know. They're like you say, they're a cute face and there's something
Yeah.
emotional about
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, that's it. We have started to buy more in the last however many years. So our collection is suddenly growing again, and we're surrounded by them in the house. And yeah, there's just most of them have some sort of a story, and I think that's possibly it. It's back to memories again. It's not also so much about them. It's about the memories and where you bought them, and the things that you did at the time, and the silly things that have happened with those cuddly toys.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's just little emotions that you hook onto things. Like you, I don't really hang on to things.
Me
Um,
neither.
but yeah, the cuddly toys, they always seem to find a way.
I still remember when I was, I don't know, 10 or so, I was on a trip with my mom and I brought many, many, many stuffed animals, like a back seat full of them um, on a road trip. And our car got burgled one night and they
Um,
stole a bunch of just trash. I mean, really, we didn't have much, like some cassette tapes. I mean, it was not impressive. They must have been very disappointed. And the car stereo, which is also, um, but they did not steal my stuffed animals. And I was young enough to be like, thank God they didn't steal my stuffed animals because I didn't, no, I was probably like 7. They didn't, I didn't understand there would be no resale. for stuffed
Mm,
animals. You know, there's not a market for that.
no.
but but they were so precious to me that I
Yeah.
thought they must be worth something, like
Yeah.
money. You know, I was
Yeah.
young enough that it was like, oh, and there was one that was real fur, you know. And I was thought, well, this is really valuable. So it's so good they didn't steal this koala bear. Um, I would have been devastated. So I think that to me that speaks to like what those things like are worth to us.
Mm,
It's you know, and I still remember the like just being you know awash with relief, like oh god, it's taken me years to amass that collection. I could not have
yeah.
gotten another one.
Yeah. It's funny. We've joked in the past, like, if the house was ever on fire, what would we do? What things would you grab?
Yeah,
And then you're sitting there thinking, right, we need to get a blanket and put all the cuddly toys on a blanket, and they just live on this blanket. So if anything happens, scoop.
that is always a funny discussion. Uh, what you would take, you know, because obviously the people, and then after
Yes.
that, it's sort of just like and the pets.
Yeah.
Um,
People, pets, cuddly toys. Bit of a blur from there.
do you have any other thoughts about writing the poem or the process or any of it? That's usually what we talk about, and just I don't know what it brought up for you or what it made you think about. Or...
Yeah, it was really interesting. I think I said to you, and when I sent it over to you, is there's a lot of kind of vague things that on
Mm,
the face of it may mean something, but if you were kind of in my life, they mean a little bit more. Um, like from the line from the library, that was actually what we used to call our old house.
mm,
Um, so our dining room, every single wall had bookshelves. It was just bookshelves. Um, and it was just there was just something really comforting, and there was hardly any spaces left on them as well. They were so full of books. It was just a
mm,
solid wall of books all around. um, and there was so much there you could never read them all,
no,
but there was just one of those weird comforting feelings that you could just sit there, look at the books, and there's just something nice about it. A weird thing you can't explain. It's
it makes
even if
sense
you're not
to me though.
yeah,
Like,
because I used to
just
read
to
a
have.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
um,
I still
but
do. I
yeah,
find it very
well
comforting.
yeah,
Books.
it's I've got a nice big collection next to me, most of which I haven't read. I've been really bad on my reading lately, but it's just really nice having a nice big wall of books.
Mm-hmm. It's like walking into either a bookstore or a library. I get that feeling of,
Hmm.
I think for me, it's like this feeling of being surrounded by potential friends or people you could care about or people you already do. Like there's
Yeah,
just these, they're real to me, the stories they
yeah,
hold. So,
yeah,
and they always help me
yeah. There's just
feel
so
less
much
alone,
potential. Hmm.
you know, it's like, oh, okay, well, within these pages, there is something that will help.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No matter what mood you're in, no
mm-hmm.
matter what you're going through, if you have a wall of books, there is
Mm-hmm.
something there that will fit the mood. Whether even if you just like, I don't know, I want to see a picture of a country. There's a book in here somewhere that'll do it for you.
Yeah. We did not have many books at all in my we had a very small bookcase, you know, it was one of
Mm,
the and it had like encyclopedias, a Bible.
mm,
I don't remember anything else. So I was left, you know, reading the cereal boxes or looking. The reason I thought of it was I don't they're really old encyclopedias. I remember looking at the illustrations in the Bible, like the
uh,
you know, because I just wanted to before I could read. I mean, I always
yeah.
wanted like the biggest book to open it and like the little like the really thin pages that they
Mm,
have in very fat books um,
yeah.
felt like a portal to another world or time. Like, what are these pages? You know, before I understood why they were so thin, because the book is so big and they can't be regular pages because the book would be this big instead of this big. You know, I didn't understand that, so it was like, what is this? And why do
Yeah.
certain books get this special treatment? Um, I just
Yeah. I
love.
used
So
to
I
have
would have loved your dining room,
oh, it
just to say.
yeah, it was lovely. I used to have a book that was, I think it was printed 60s maybe. It was nothing particularly special, but it was my oldest book, and it had like the old yellow paper, and it was just a slightly different quality. And there was just something about it that, it just felt like, as you say, a portal to a different time. And it was, I don't know where that book's gone. Really annoyingly, it kind of disappeared somewhere in moving things around. And I've since tried to search for it, and it's just
Mm,
vanished. It's probably in a book box somewhere at my parents' house because when they moved house, they didn't have space for a library anymore. so,
yeah.
so a lot of books boxes are full of books still. Um, but yeah,
Any
there's
other
just
secret passages of your poem, or go on with what you were actually saying?
um, so there's a couple of things. There's the concrete again, the old house. My When my parents bought it, we had a small garden outside, small patch of grass, and they decided that as we were growing up, um, it would make more sense for it to be concrete so we could actually play.
Mm.
And they didn't have to look after it, so they got rid of all the grass and they just put a giant slab of concrete on. It's one of those strange memories. And then as we grew older, they were looking at the concrete going, "Yeah, you can't really do anything with that, can you?" I said, "No."
No.
But as a kid growing up, you could go out there, you could kick a ball around, you never had to worry, and it did its job. But then as we grew older, it's just one of those strange parts of life. Um, yeah, and it's hot dogs with macaroni was always the deal I had when it was my birthday.
Oh,
I had to have that.
was that
Yeah,
your favorite?
yeah. So it was hot dogs, macaroni, cheese. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
People
was
like
that.
that. I'm not one of those people, but
Oh,
people
I
do
love it.
like it. Yeah.
Still to this day, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if it's something special that you had on your birthday,
Yeah,
it's always gonna like if you eat it, it's always gonna give you that feeling.
yeah,
Like even if it's not the full, it gives you the piece of that feeling.
yeah.
Food I think carries a lot of memories.
Oh, yeah, yeah. My parents, my dad was a teacher, um, and my mum was looking after us when we were younger, and then later on she actually went into teaching herself. They weren't big cooks when we were younger, so it was a lot of freezer food. So that sort of thing at dinner
Mm,
was quite a treat. And the corned
mm,
beef hash was because for years that was basically all my dad could cook.
mm.
If mum was out for the evening, you could guarantee at some point dad was going to walk into the room and say, "Corned beef hash for dinner?" Yes, Dad, we know because that's the one thing you make. And
Mm-hmm.
but it
The
was,
signature dish. It's
yeah,
a
it
signature dish.
was it was nice enough. It was fine. We enjoyed it, and that was his one thing and one of his little quirks. I mean, since then, these days he'll cook all sorts of stuff, but that was just his little thing. Yeah,
I think also it was harder to cook back then. I mean, it was a
yeah,
more complicated process. Things were different. Like
yeah,
because sometimes I'll look back on a recipe from the 70s, and it's like, wow, this is really freaking complicated. Why is there so much going on? Like, this doesn't need to be this hard. But
yeah,
it was. I'm not really certain. I mean, I don't know. There was not as much pre-made stuff. Like, you couldn't just get
yeah.
chicken stock in a little box container. You had to like
No,
make chicken stock
yeah,
or use little cubes or like it was a different like there is more stuff that is um, ready to use, and so things
yeah.
have gotten easier, and also kitchens are better. Like things are just
Oh, yeah.
more sophisticated. So um, I think a lot of my dad. I don't. You've made me now like, did my dad have something he would make? I don't know that he did. I mean, now I'm gonna go think about it though. Because I'm going to ask my husband because he loves, loves, loves to talk about food, and he's here
Oh,
right
yeah.
now. But he loves to. I don't know if when you're at meals with people, they ask questions. I know if you're friends with Ria, she will ask you
Oh, yeah.
questions because
All the
she
time.
asks a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Um, but my husband mostly our food. What did you eat? What would you eat? What would you
Mhm.
choose? What would you? And I think it is partially because he's a bit nostalgic, and it's tied into memory.
Yeah.
You know.
Our circle of friends, it's generally when a conversation starts or one of the group messages gets going, it's always right. First, important question, what did you have for dinner? And then we can move on. It's like always the food first. You have to get that out of the way. because that tells you a lot about a person, the food that they have.
The food they have, and I think if you know them well enough, if what they ate that day definitely tells you about them too. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
you had a good day, you had a bad day, you had to hurry, you had to relax,
yeah,
like so.
yeah. If you've got a friend who always has sort of the same kind of meals, and then suddenly they go
Hmm.
completely wild and have something different, you're like, interesting. What's going on in your life?
Hmm. I have the same kind of meals. I am that
Yeah.
person. Yes, I'm very predictable. I like routine. That's that. And I also, because I cook so much, I don't want to start from scratch for every meal. Like my brain just
Mm.
can't handle it. So it's like oatmeal for breakfast, salad for lunch. Okay, I can handle dinner. Um, but any other thoughts, Paul, before we wrap up?
Um, no, I mean just the man who could fly, the stories
Oh
lost
yes.
in time, having a family that from Ireland. Um, it's it's a pain trying to find out your family history.
Yeah.
It's all memory and oral history.
Hmm.
My granddad, on my dad's side, he held a lot of it in, and it was only in his later years that he started to talk about it. Um, I've got a video of my uncle, also on my dad's side, talking to my grandma. He did a video to try and get as much information out of her,
Hmm.
which is really sad because both of them, the uncle, my grandma, they're all died now. My uncle unfortunately died not that long ago.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
so yeah, that trying to get information from the past is really difficult. We're going through the ancestry thing and trying to get Irish records
Hmm.
up. 1900, I'm at a complete dead end because there's nothing.
Because there are no
Um,
records.
yeah, partly there's no records. A lot of them were held in churches. It was all parish records.
Hmm.
Um, and then over the years, they just weren't looked after,
Hmm.
or they're, held in basements somewhere. There is a
Right.
project in Ireland to try and get all these records digitized and sort of so people can access them, but it's such a monumental task. It's really difficult.
I was
Um,
wondering if it was that because my father's side of the family, my paternal grandmother's from Ireland,
mm,
and it's also like the names are really similar. You know,
yeah,
like and if you're American, they're like from kind of three or four different places. Like they aren't from,
mm,
they pretty much immigrated from, although they may not have been from there, but they took a ship from there. From
yeah,
you know, um, so I was just curious why so it's bad records and that because
yeah.
I get overwhelmed with ancestry. I would love it if someone would deliver it to me because I find it fascinating. Because I do think it does influence our lives now, where we came from,
Mm,
like where we came from, even that far back. Because the little I've learned, I've found it illuminating. It hasn't
yeah,
surprised me. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
yeah. It's interesting kind of finding out, like, you can go back 4 or 5 generations and find out that those 4 and 5 generations all have similar histories. They've done
Mm-hmm.
similar things. They've, lived similar lives, and you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
looking, think, we all just, is there something ingrained in us that we're kind of following a similar path, or
Yeah.
are we just following the story that's been set out before us, or what is it? Um, so it is really interesting to go back, but yeah, it's a nightmare at
Yeah.
the same time.
I read this book,
Um,
and you might find it interesting. It's called Ancestor Trouble. It's by Maud
hmm,
Adams, and she does a lot of it. Like, I mean, she's an incredible genealogist, and but she finds so much out about her family, and she's multi generational here. So I think the
right,
records are easier to
yeah,
access, and she uh, finds echoes of experiences, like very specific experiences in her family, and it's pretty fascinating. Those kind of I don't know. It's like they're calling through time to each other
mm,
without even
yeah,
knowing it.
yeah. It's fascinating the kind of the lines we go through. Everyone seems to do the same thing. It's very strange. Even if you don't know about it, like I wouldn't have a clue what my great granddad did. Not
Right.
a Scooby Doo, right? And my granddad wouldn't have any idea because there was be no records. You would barely talk about, you know,
Right.
the family's gone past because you've got enough troubles of your own growing up in Ireland at that time.
Well,
There was
and
no
shame,
chance you'd be talking about
right?
that.
I mean,
Yeah,
so much shame, like for me, especially, I think the ones that were poor and they came here because they had nothing
mm,
there, they don't want to talk about it. Why would they talk about it? It was
yeah,
terrible. They left. They're done
yeah,
now. You know,
yeah. They
we
left
live
for a
here now.
reason. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Nothing happened before this.
yeah, yeah. This is our new life. Let's not look back.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Even though
yeah,
it's with us. Of course it is.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so the man who could fly, that the one bit of written history we have, there's a town in Northern Ireland called Draperstown, um, which you could basically at one point call McGuigan Town, which is my surname. There's
Mm.
so many of them, it's ridiculous. But there's actually the Historical Society wrote a book about one of my ancestors, Hudi, because he was, shall we say, the town character.
Mm.
And he's the kind of person that was so wild and wacky. All of these stories got built
Mm.
around him. So there is a book written about him, all kind of the stories that have been built around him. One of which was that people swore he could fly, and they have all seen him fly.
Mm.
He could definitely do it. Um, but yeah, that was basically the one written history that we've got from this historical society in this tiny town in Northern Ireland that have picked up on one weird ancestor. Um, and yeah, and kind of that's our written history. It's really bizarre.
That's incredible too, because you wonder what it was. Why did they
Yeah,
think he could fly? What did he do? He did
I
something.
mean, it was probably just completely balmy.
That too. I mean, it could just be that. But I'd like to think that he also did something,
Yeah,
like that there was something he did that led
yeah,
them to believe that they wanted to believe also.
yeah, he obviously touched people's lives in such a
Hmm.
way that the stories got around, and they were willing to believe and
Yeah,
willing to share the story that yeah, I saw him fly,
yeah,
definitely. Enough so that some historical society, however many years down the line, have put it into their little book.
I love that.
Um, yeah, yeah, it's a nice little. Whatever happens to me, my surname will always be there with the man who could fly.
Well, I can't think of really any better way to close. So thank you, Paul. I really
No,
enjoyed
thank you.
this.
No, it's been lovely. It's been a nice excuse to think back and all the little random things
That's
in
what
my
I'm here
life and
for.
all the
I'm here to give people
yeah,
an excuse to think back and consider where they're from.
yeah. No, it's been lovely. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. Well, I hope we talk soon. It's been a while. Okay.
Yes, it has.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.